Hey, this is a help video for 1.2 recursive formulas for arithmetic sequences. Let's look at the first one on the practice sheet. And we want to know what is it adding or subtracting by every time. So this might be confusing for some people. It's got negative numbers. The numbers are kind of big. So what you can do is take two terms that are next to each other, take the right-hand one and subtract the left-hand one. So just take two that are next to each other and subtract them. Now, you say, well, what if I get it the wrong way? What if I subtract the left one and do it the other way? Well, then you get your sign wrong. You get it minus instead of plus. So you'll get the right number, but you might get confused about plus versus minus. So what we really wanted was this first one that we did. We did the right-hand one minus the left-hand one. And why do we subtract? Because we want the difference, the distance between them, the difference. And difference means subtract. So to find the distance between them, you could also count on your fingers. You could say 34, 33, 32, 31. Then you take 31, 30, 29, 28, 28, 27, 26, 25. I'm counting 3 every time on my fingers. So that works too. There's nothing wrong with counting with your fingers. That's what they're there for. Now, so I think that as we go across here, we are adding 3 every time. And another way to check, if you're like, well, what if I don't know? If you got minus 34, try adding 3, see what you get. And then try adding 3 again, and try adding 3 again, and you can see that we're making exactly the pattern that's here. And so what if you needed to make the next few terms? Well, you just keep adding 3. So I think anybody can add 3, so I'm not going to do that part for you. The tricky part then is to write the arithmetic sequence, the recursive formula. So if we want the recursive formula, first of all, recursive means to do something over and over and over again. It means what can we do over and over to make this pattern? Well, obviously what we're doing over and over is we're adding 3, right? That's our common difference. We're adding 3 every time. But to make the actual formula, it's going to look like this. So we're going to call this pattern A. Why are we calling it A? I don't know. Do you have a better idea? Do you want to call it F or Z or Q? I don't care. We tend to call it A because it's an arithmetic sequence. That's why we call it A. You're just picking a letter. So on the quiz, pretty much all of them are called A just because it's traditional, but you could call it any letter you want. But this is just the name of the pattern. The pattern's name is A. So this is pattern A, and N means which term are you on. And just to be clear, this one is term 1, this is term 2, this is term 3, this is term 4. So how we read this is A sub 1, A sub 2, A sub 3, A sub 4. Now let me slow down what I'm saying. I'm saying A sub for subscript. Let me write that word up here. So what I'm saying is subscript. Now break that into 2 pieces. Sub, like a submarine, means down. Script means to write. So this means to write under or write down, right? So that's just what it means. So to write under something. So we're doing the subscript is this part that goes under a bit here. So we say A sub n is equal to, well, let's just think about how did we make this pattern? If you wanted to make the next step in the sequence, you would take negative 25 and you would add 3. And if you added 3, you would get negative 22, right? So if I wanted you to find the next term in the sequence, you would take the previous one, you would take the previous term and you would add 3. Oops, let me move that up so you can see it. Take the previous term and add 3. Now, in math, we're not going to write the words previous term, right? We need a shortcut to write that because in math class, we don't want to write out whole words. We're trying to use symbols for things. So instead of writing the words previous term, we need a way to write that. Well, what is the previous term? Well, let's think about this. This is term 5, 8, this is a sub 5. So to find a sub 5, I took a sub 4 and added 3, right? If I wanted a sub 6, I would take a sub 5 and add 3. So what's the difference between 6 and 5? It's just this number went down 1. So here's how we're going to write that. We're going to say a sub n minus 1, right? So if I want term 6, I go to term, if I want term 6, I go to term 5. If I want term 7, I go to term 6 and add 3. That's what that's saying. It says go to the previous term where this number is 1 less. Go 1 less on that number, which means go 1 term to the left and then add 3. Now, I know that's, some of you are still kind of shaking your head at this. Just stick with me a little bit. Let's do a couple. Let's go to the next one. So we want the common difference and we want the recursive formula. So first of all, common difference. What is this adding by? Well, to go from here to here, it's adding 9. But then to go from here to here, it's minus 18. Okay, hold on. That's not adding the same thing every time. So this one is not arithmetic. And I'll give you just a little clue for later in the course. When you see one that's going negative every other one and positive every other one, that means not only that it's multiply every time, but it means that you're multiplying by a negative number. So that's not something you need to worry about today, but this one is multiplying by a negative. Okay, that's just something that'll help you on later quizzes. So for those of you that are kind of like this, if you're ready for the next level, that's something to think about. If you're struggling, don't worry about that. All right, let's look at number 3. So what's going on? First of all, between these first two, that's kind of hard. It's hard to see it. But look between these guys. From here to here and from here to here, I kind of think that this is subtract 200. That's what I think. I think it's subtracting 200 every time, which means it's probably subtracting 200 here as well. So what's the common difference? Minus 200. What's our recursive formula? Well, you go to the previous term and subtract 200. Now, a quick note. When you go and put these quizzes into the computer, if you want subscripts like this, you will have to put parentheses around that n minus 1. When you try to type it, you'll see that otherwise the minus 1 pops out. Let me just show you what I mean. If you go to type it on the computer and you try typing like this and you just type minus 1 after that, it looks like this on the computer. And that's not right. So this is wrong, right? What we want is that. We want the minus 1 to stay little and stay down low. And the only way the computer is going to do that is if you put parentheses around that. Okay? So this is when you're using the computer. All right. When you're writing on paper, you can make the numbers stay down low if you want. You just put your pen down there and write it. So here we go. So that's your recursive formula, and there's your common difference. Cool. Let's do a couple more. How about this one? Here we are subtracting 7 every time. So the common difference is minus 7. So our a sub n is equal to a sub n minus 1. Now I want you to notice this part stays the same every time. This part's the same every time. If we look on the other ones, wasn't that the same? This part was the same every time. This part was the same every time. So that first part is the same every time. And then you add your common difference. That's the part that's different. So you've got a sub n is equal to a sub n minus 1 plus or minus 7. It's a subtract 7, so let's just do it like that. Cool? So the green part stays the same every single time. All you're changing is your common difference. That's all that changes. Let's do a few more. How about this one? This one I think is subtracting 7, just like the last one. So our a sub n is equal to a sub n minus 1, but then put your minus 7 on there because that's what you do every time. Bam. So remember, this says your new term is equal to the term to the left minus 7. That's what this says. This is your new term is equal to the previous term, the one to the left, and then plus your common difference. And you say, well, isn't that minus? Well, yeah. I mean, if it's going down, you're going to subtract. If it's going up, you're going to add. I mean, but like when we're talking about the general rule, we're adding the common difference. You can be adding a negative number. Anyway, don't let that bother you. You're just putting the common difference at the end. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it there. Please email me if you have questions.